Okay fellas, what we're going to talk about today, just a bit of a rundown on what's happening inside the cab. These new machines have got the command screen in them, so we'll just basically go through the basics of those. And end of the day, of course, you'll get the instructions once you're cutting cane. We will be there to go through it all again, but this is just a bit of an overview of a few things. One of the options on these machines now is what's called the harvesting activity monitor. So it's logging everything that's happening in the harvester. So we'll go through that presentation to start with. And we'll just take it step by step. All right, so the harvest activity monitor is set inside the screen, but it's doing all the work in the background. What it'll be doing is it'll be accumulating the total hours of the machine, also the total distance the machine travels, the hours since it was last reset. There'll also be the distance since it was last reset, the harvester engine hours, and also the harvesting hours. It also logs the headland mover techniques. Every time you turn on the headland, it knows it's doing that, and when you're actually spending time on the road. And there's also when you're waiting doing nothing, and there's the elevator hours are in there, and the reset icon. So to get to that particular screen, once we've got our screen on and we've got our screen happening, what you'll have is your normal working screen. There's your base cutter ones there. So you have that screen happening. We move across to the right-hand side of the screen where A is there. We tap on that one there, brings up this screen. Then we move down to the harvester activity monitor, down the bottom right-hand corner, and it'll bring up this screen here. And now in this screen, we have all our functions across the top. So I'll go through them all individually and what they do. So across the top, we've got our engine hours. That's our distance there. And those two there are our reset columns. So that's our reset button. We can reset that one. These are fixed. Once it starts off, you can't change these figures. So we've got our engine hours, our manoeuvres across, coming down the side. We've got our manoeuvres, which is this row here, across there. That's our headland manoeuvres, engine hours, and when we're travelling. So I'll go through to the next one. And this is how we actually break it all down. So to give us a reading in this particular section, generally when the engine is on, the clock is ticking over. When it's harvesting, the base cutter's on, we've got greater than the bottom low pressure speed and we're travelling forward, it's actually monitoring the harvesting of the machine. Headland manoeuvres, the same as our travel speed, when we've got everything turned off while we're travelling. And our waiting time is really when we're sitting there waiting. In this situation, the base cutter is actually going there, but the machine's not doing anything. So it's monitoring, and what we'll end up with is a printout of how we get it out. How we get the printout is down on the bottom of the right-hand side, or under the console, there is a USB port. Once we drop in a USB into there, it will log everything that's happening. So the minute you turn the key on, it downloads everything that's in that system. So then at the end of the day, we're probably still experimenting with this. We had it in Craig's machine last year, and we're just trying to see how we can utilise it. So what we're looking for is some sort of printout. We can go to a grower, end of the season or end of the day, and say, okay, we have spent X amount of hours on your property. We've spent this many hours actually turning around, and you'll also know how many hours you're spending waiting for the trucks to come back. So it's information we're trying to utilise and download and basically get the more efficiency out of the machines. So it's all downloaded on a CSV file. I've printed it all out and it's just in lines. So we're just working out how we can do that, whether when we get to a farm and we just download the information from that farm. We put a new USB stick in, download the information and then pull it out. Whenever we're on that farm, it'll put one line in and that'll be all that activity for that day. There's just a bit of a breakdown of exactly what's on the screen and where to find it. Just breaking down the screen. We'll go through this once we get inside the cab after this. We'll go through all this, but what we're looking for will be our corner post display. So in the past, all that information there was sitting on those little screens on up on the side there. So now it's all down the side there as well. A lot of functions on the handle on there. Now don't forget, on the left now we used to have a sight glass full of oil, whatever product you put in there. Right now we've got that's our base cutter height there, sitting in there. So we've got our temperatures across here. We've got that's the engine horsepower range there, fuel level and water temperature, engine hours, engine revs and speed there. And then these down here are our base cutter heights. They're the ones we work with to change our base cutter heights, our target speeds as well. Yeah, that's where your sight glass was in the past. And if you recall, these other gauges up along this side here. So now everything you're looking at the right hand side all the time now. So that's what our command center, 7-inch command center looks like. We've got one function we've got inside the command center is smart mode. We can activate that when we get to the headland and we've turned our elevator off, but we've got our primary extractor running at full revs. We can set it up where we can reduce our bottom extractor speed. So we can cut it right back to maybe 600 revs, 500 revs. So when you're turning, you've got the elevator off, it's only just turning, but it won't stop because you don't want it to stop, otherwise it's going to take too much horsepower to get it going again. So that's a good fuel saving, that one there. Now a lot of these functions can be locked out. You can go into supervisor mode and you can put a password in. You can set it all up and put a password so no one can go in there and muck around with it. So if you're inclined to have things locked out, you can do that, and your driver can only have certain rights to go into certain areas. We can set up our choke alarm the same sort of way. We can preset that choke alarm so it actually goes off, the alarm goes off before the choke actually happens. We can set the frequency in this box here, the amount of seconds or tenth of a second prior to actually, as it starts to load up. So because you won't know until it actually loads up when it starts to choke. But we can preset all that, and we can also preset our pressures. Chopper pressure and base cutter pressure. We can set a cruise speed, and the same sort of thing. You can go in there if you don't want your machine going over 6K. In some countries that's actually the rule, that they won't let trackies go over 6Ks because in case it does any ground damage. So they'll lock them out. But you can preset that to whatever speed you want if you don't want to do 9Ks. We can now set the field cruise. We can drop our top revs back a little bit, a couple hundred revs. Especially when we're in poor conditions, we can drop those revs a little bit, save a bit of fuel. And we can also now adjust our bias. On some of the older machines, we had that knob in the middle of the steering wheel, because once it wears or it wants to track to one side, we can actually pull the trackies back to the center. We can now do it on this screen over here. Set 0 and it stays in the center, so we can actually control it from here. Now, once there's a bit of wear, we've had this issue over the last few years, if there's a bit of wear and it's not tracking right, we'll actually reset it, but we may not reset it back to 0. It may go back to a -5, for example, but that'll be our 0 point. So once we have to do that, then we'll tell you, actually 0 point's going to be your 0.5 or whatever it happens to be. So Blair will let you know if there's an issue there and where our 0 point's going to be. But most of the time, you go back to 0 as center. Let's see the machine there. So, any questions on those controls and that control center? But like I said, we'll go through it outside, but more so once the machine starts cutting cane, that'll be the best way to spend time out there going through it all. Okay. Now all these machines have got the new contour base cutter system. I don't know if you've all seen this particular footage, so I'll just run it again. This is actually how it all works. A bit of an animation on how the base cutter system works. So it'll turn itself on and off to give you an idea. So at the moment it's turned off. So as the base colour is going along, as it digs in, as it goes down, and there's a rise, it actually cuts straight into the ground. Hence putting a lot of dirt through the machine. So what we'll do...
Right there, mate, behind this.
In a few minutes, mate.
Would you get still, though?
I'll take this one if you want to.
No,
So you'll see soon it'll turn itself on and then follow the contours. There we go, now it's on. So as the fronts rise or drop, the base colours then follow. Right, so it's just following wherever the system's going. So it's eliminating that need for it to cut into the ground.
Yep, lucky. That saves a lot of effort.
So it's pretty straightforward once it's all happening, but it is a good system. Craig, you've run it for a year. Any comments on that system? Yeah.
Yeah, look, once you get your head around it, you know, the other one, you drop it to height 15 and that's where you sit all day every day. This, you'll mark your height at 15, but next thing it's sitting on 20. And you've got that tendency to drop it, but you just got to leave it and let it do its thing. And it'll leave an inch stump from one end of the paddock to the other if you want. Yeah, you go around that up to 7.5 k an hour, it's really good. After that, or in bogged up country, it's a bit where you're going, but most of the time, yeah, it works really well.
I think we found in really sandy sort of country.
Yeah, in the sand, you take the pressure off your floating shoes.
Yeah.
You drop your pressure right back, and it works better. But
Yep.
you still have trouble in really loose sand.
You really soft stuff that was, but yeah.
Your shoes are just tapping the ground all the time, sensing where the ground is, and then that's relating to where your base colours run. So if you're in loose sand, it digs in.
Yeah.
You're not going to get the proper feedback. So, but no, it did work really well once you get your head around it.
But a clean finish. That was the good part. Very clean finish.
A John Deere, líder mundial no fornecimento de produtos e serviços avançados, é extremamente comprometida com o sucesso dos clientes, cujo trabalho está relacionado à terra, àqueles que a cultivam, colhem, transformam e enriquecem para atender à necessidade cada vez mais crescente do mundo por alimento, combustível e infraestrutura. Desde 1837, oferecendo produtos inovadores e de qualidade superior com tradição e integridade. Com os pés no chão e os olhos no horizonte, nosso profundo entendimento do cliente levou a reprojetar as já conhecidas colhedoras 3520 e 3522 para que elas possam proporcionar uma nova experiência aos nossos clientes. As novas colhedoras CH570 e CH670 trazem muito mais conforto ao operador e um sistema inovador de processamento de cana, o EconoFlow, que une melhorias nos sistemas de alimentação, limpeza e hidráulico para proporcionar maior produtividade e qualidade de cana colhida a um custo reduzido. Agora vamos apresentar a você as melhorias, começando pela nova frente. Combinamos alta tecnologia com um equilíbrio certo entre suavidade e agressividade para o manejo adequado da cana. Produzimos divisores de linha externos padronizados, que se adaptam às diferentes condições de colheita. Também deixamos os divisores externos mais longos, para que a separação de cana acamada e embaraçada comece mais próxima ao solo. Os divisores de internos foram reposicionados para melhorar a alimentação em canaviais de alta produtividade. Nossa tecnologia exclusiva de flutuação dos divisores de linha permite que os mesmos acompanhem as variações do terreno para melhor separação das linhas de cana com o mínimo revolvimento do solo. Agora veremos o novo design das facas laterais. A geometria foi remodelada para possibilitar um corte mais suave, enquanto permite que a cana flua livremente mesmo quando não estão em uso. A altura também é ajustável, para garantir uma adaptação rápida a todas as condições de colheita. Também houve melhorias nos rolos tombadores. Os diâmetros foram aumentados e o alcance do rolo superior foi estendido para melhor alimentação. Acrescente o inovador ajuste hidráulico e os rolos superior e inferior irão se alinhar simultaneamente para que ambos mantenham contato com a cana, minimizando a quebra, especialmente de variedades mais frágeis. As novas sapatas flutuantes com articulação vinculada ao chassi mantêm a altura adequada para evitar perdas e danos durante a operação ou manobras. A nova frente facilita a operação do corte de base. Para garantir que a cana seja cortada na altura desejada, aumentamos a precisão do exclusivo controle integrado da altura do corte de base, o CICB, agora com sinal de pressão. Continuaremos com o fluxo de cana pelo sistema de alimentação para conhecer mais uma inovação. Vamos observar detalhadamente o movimento do feixe de cana. Observamos que a maioria dos colmos eram levados principalmente para a seção intermediária do picador. Para corrigir isso, remodelamos os rolos alimentadores inferiores e agora o feixe de cana é espalhado de modo mais uniforme. O novo picador pode ser descrito como uma obra-prima da engenharia. Ele foi criado em formato modular, por isso toda a montagem é independente do chassi da colhedora, o que permite melhor encaixe e manutenção mais fácil. Ele também foi posicionado sobre coxins de borracha para absorver as vibrações do chassi. Os facões estão maiores e o contato com o feixe de cana é mais uniforme ao longo de todo o comprimento. Como resultado, pode-se esperar facilidade de manutenção, componentes com maior durabilidade, toletes uniformes e melhor limpeza no extrator primário. Novo sistema de limpeza. À primeira vista, ele pode parecer igual, mas internamente o extrator primário foi redesenhado para efetuar uma melhor limpeza, com menor rotação e menos perdas. Foram realizados inúmeros estudos relacionados ao fluxo de ar, permitindo aos nossos engenheiros reinventar o que já havia de melhor. O fluxo de ar otimizado está mais eficiente e com menor recirculação, o que possibilita melhor separação dos toletes e melhor remoção das impurezas vegetais e minerais. Agora vamos falar da força e potência das colhedoras CH570 e CH670. A John Deere sempre foi pioneira no cumprimento de normas de emissões, por isso também saímos na frente em economia de combustível, maior potência, torque e menor tempo de resposta. Desenvolvido especificamente para aplicações agrícolas, o motor John Deere PowerTech de 24 válvulas e 9 litros está disponível com potência de 342 cavalos-vapor para a CH570 e 380 cavalos-vapor para a CH670. Podem desenvolver uma vantagem de potência de até 14%, o que mantém a eficiência da operação, mesmo em canaviais de alta produtividade. E a nova cabine? Como sempre, buscamos incessantemente novas maneiras de tornar a operação mais fácil e simples. A nova cabine Premium é 30% mais espaçosa e oferece todo o conforto, praticidade e acessórios que os operadores precisam. A melhor visibilidade permite que sua vista alcance o horizonte por praticamente todos os lados e com a maior capacidade de iluminação, é possível operar à noite com toda a nitidez. Você pode acessar a cabine de modo prático, tanto pela direita como pela esquerda. O assento com suspensão a ar possui múltiplos ajustes e articulações para que você encontre a posição perfeita e o ângulo de visão ideal. A coluna de direção duplamente inclinável se ajusta facilmente às suas preferências no volante. O painel de comandos do apoia-braço é intuitivo e possui todas as funcionalidades operacionais de que o operador precisa para um dia produtivo. A alavanca multifuncional se encaixa confortavelmente na mão do operador, permitindo fácil controle da velocidade e das funções de colheita. A tela do Command Center 2630 coloca ao seu alcance informações vitais sobre a máquina e sobre a operação, e com a tecnologia touchscreen é muito simples fazer ajustes rápidos. O MAC, monitor das atividades da colhedora, traz indicadores que permitem o comparativo entre operadores e planos de melhorias de eficiência. Alertas, velocidade, uso de carga do motor e outros indicadores de desempenho. Tudo é bem iluminado e fácil de ler, para que o operador possa se beneficiar da praticidade e perfeita localização do monitor de coluna. Segurança e facilidade de manutenção sempre foram prioridades para a John Deere. Com os acessos fáceis para inspeção e manutenção, bem como os acessos seguros para a parte superior, as colhedoras CH570 e CH670 possuem alta servicibilidade e acessibilidade indiscutíveis. Estas são as colhedoras CH570 e CH670, construídas com base nas consagradas 3520 e 3522, aperfeiçoadas especialmente para atender às necessidades do mercado canavieiro, unindo economia, produtividade, simplicidade operacional e servicibilidade. Estas são as novas colhedoras de cana CH570 e CH670 John Deere, 8% mais eficientes para colher mais e para reduzir custos. Nothing runs like a Deere.
Anyway, like I was saying, this is the end of the 3520s for production. Yesterday, the official launch in Brazil of the new CH570, which will be the replacement for this year's machine. This will come into production later in the year in the factory, which will be set for our production for the 2016 year. Wider cab, about 30% wider. It's also got the new 7-inch screen, like in the big tractors. I can tell you now that the wheelies and the trackies are both auto track ready. If you notice, the fronts are slightly different, smaller scrolls across the front. They've also got the drop saws. They've got these saws here, but they actually come down as well. And this is good, a platform. When you're climbing up into the cab, you can put your lunchbox on that platform or your toolbox to make life a little bit easier. They're very proud of that one. So that's the machine there. Now, one of the big features of this machine, like I said, it's auto track ready, and also it'll be JD Link ready, which is a big feature in John Deere. Our bigger tractors, we can now get a JD Link ready, but what I'll do is I'll ask Steve, our technology guy, to give us a bit of an overview of what we can do with JD Link and the CAN bus system, which will be in these machines. Thanks, Steve.